Folks, you're with Tacitus Today. Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a series of meetings and so on that I needed to go to in downtown Sydney, and there's a few videos that are going to come out of that. But in this instance, I was in a large building, and around the periphery, sort of the bullpen of offices in the middle, and around the periphery of these floors on these buildings. I had to go to a number of floors, various sort of meeting rooms where there are team meetings and so on. Now, it's a fairly large and bureaucratic organisation, but as I was walking around, I didn't really notice it at first. Then I sort of looked and noticed that every team meeting, the boss in the meeting, clearly the person in charge, was not a white male. I thought, well, you've got to be kidding. This is Australia, where the majority of the population is supposed to be white, and even white female bosses were pretty scarce. So the majority of bosses by far were brown people, and probably slightly more men than women, I suppose, were in charge as the team leaders. But none, it hardly makes any difference at this point. Now, I would estimate that other than the odd sort of white woman, that somewhere between 95 and 98% of the team leaders were brown. Now, in cases where the doors were open or you could hear, certainly the ones I heard all spoke with a fairly thick accent. It was Indian primarily, but there was also Asian, like Chinese and Filipino, that sort of thing. So now this can't be just organic. There is no way this could be organic. This is a purposeful policy that this multinational company is forcing on the populace without their consent. Now, I should add that this multinational company that brings in a shitload of brown people on the basis they're supposed to be skilled, which is, of course, nonsense. It's a scam. In the United States, it's the equivalent, the Australian equivalent of like the H-1B visas for supposedly skilled workers. If these people are skilled, then wow, the definition of skills certainly changed quite a lot. So this was it. So I went for finding an excuse. I sort of went back because once I started to notice, I thought, is this just sort of a run of offices on this floor maybe? So I went back to a couple of other floors, two other floors that I'd been on, and it was the same thing. Not every meeting room was full, but the majority of them were, or had people in them. And in every case, the majority of the people who were the subordinates were the straight white males. So this is a clear, purposeful, willful policy to place straight white males last in the hierarchy of who gets what. So they've gone the total opposite of organic development, and they've imposed an artificial situation on the workforce, which can't be to anyone's benefit. Now, this multinational, though, they receive a lot of government contracts, and they also are protected by the government. And if they enter into contract with the government, they get various protections along the lines of, if they lose money, the government will give them taxpayer money to make up for anything they've lost. So they're in a no-lose situation. So they don't need good quality people, far from it. They just need time servers and flunkies. What was interesting is that the brown people think that they've got the job on some sort of merit. They're somehow better. And to the brown people, because they're not very sophisticated, to the brown people, they say, well, if you've given me this job as the boss, we're talking about middle manager type stuff. If you've given me the job at the boss, it must be because I'm better than those people. It must be, well, why else would you do it? Why would you pass up your own tribe if they were better? So they've got no idea of how the globalist cabal have completely sold out white people all over the Western world, and they can't get their head around this. The brown people, nobody would do that to their own people, but no, they do, and they are, and they have, and they'll continue to do it. So So these people swan around thinking they're hot shit when they're nothing more but affirmative action, diversity, equity, inclusion flunkies who in a world of merit and so on wouldn't even get a job as a fucking floor cleaner or a car park attendant or something like that. And yet here they are being elevated into middle management roles, and these are roles that are paying between $150,000 and $250,000 a year in Australia. So these people are doing rather well, and they think they're such hot shit. They don't understand the concept of merit, non-merit, and tribalism. That's all they. In India, they'd only employ their relatives, and they wouldn't give a prestigious job to anybody outside of their class or outside of their family or tribe. But the white people are. So these brown people shrug their shoulders and go, oh, well, it must be because I'm better than the white people, which is, of course, laughable. But there you go. Now, so this was in this building. Now, there's an area like, an outdoor coffee shop, food mall that's sort of just a little bit further down from where this building is. So I went down there, and there's quite a lot of like coffee shop type, cafe type meetings going on. And again, everywhere I went, it was everything. Every meeting I saw was a brown person in charge. The brown person was the boss, and there's white people sitting there. Now, I can tell from the look on the white people's face that they just, they got mortgages, they got to put food on the table, so they had to just grin and bear it. Now, maybe a lot of them are flunkies who just got thrown. Maybe they're all gay guys. I don't know. I mean, they didn't look at it, but this is where we're at now in the West and in downtown Sydney, Australia. Every fucking boss was a brown person. In the outside stuff, the majority of them were male, but they were all brown, and subordinates were mostly white. Now, why don't they have? So this means they're purposefully filling the lowest level jobs with white people, and purposefully, willfully filling the supervisory jobs, team leader jobs, middle manager jobs with brown people who haven't earned it. Now, it must be because they want to humiliate white people. And why else would it be? And when I listened to just as walking, I managed to stop and pretend that I was sending a text and listen to a couple of these meetings. And these brown people are throwing their weight around and acting like they fucking own the universe. And this is, they haven't got the job on the basis of any sort of merit or qualifications. They're just there as part of the social engineering imposed, the artificial world, artificial workplace that's being imposed by the globalists, and it's white people who are getting the short end of the stick. Now, I mean, just as an extension of that, I was taking the train, and there was some like maintenance work going on, or a train had broken down, so they switched to buses at one step. Now, this bus that certainly the sections that I travelled on, for most of the journey, I was the only white, and the bus was crowded. I was the only white guy on the bus. There were just armies of third world illiterate, midget peasants, 4 foot 10 inches tall, with three, and health issues to boot, and their 3 kids. There's one kid, the toddler, another one in the stroller, and another one on the way. Anchor babies being popped out by the gazillion, and that's and these people look and sound like peasants from the third world. Why would you bring people like that in? I mean, why? I mean, seriously. But there you go. But this is it in Sydney, Australia. I was the only white person on the fucking bus. Now, at one stop, a white guy got on just for one station and got off again. So I was, there were 2 white guys there, but one otherwise. Now, there was a time, and I've mentioned in other vids, if I wanted to see that many brown and black and whatever people, I had to go to another country to do it. I don't have to go anywhere now. Just a few miles away from where I live, and already white people are a minority. I had to take a train a couple of days after that somewhere in a place I haven't been for quite a while. And the car needed to go in the shop, so I thought, no, I'll just do the train on this. So on the train. Now, this was a train line. This is a spur line, really a train line where you would. A few years ago, I took the train there. Not a single brown person on it. It was 100% white. Now it's less than half is white. That's how quickly they're throwing gazillions of brown third world peasants into the West without the consent of the populace, without anyone's agreement, just being forced on us to create this artificial, insane society where in the end we're all going to lose. You've been with Tasos today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.